Happy 40th anniversary to Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, I should have done this last year, but I got lazy, and conveniently, 2024 is the 40th anniversary of Nightmare on Elm Street, so I'm doing all eight movies and plus Freddy vs. Jason. Let's go.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
The original Nightmare on Elm Street is an undeniable horror classic from the horror master Wes Craven. I reviewed this before in the first 13 Nights of Halloween in 2020, but man, it's always fun to go back to this one. First off, the Freddy Krueger concept is so genius. The burnt face, the fedora, the Christmas sweater, and claws are so distinctive, and the concept of him being able to kill people in their dreams is a terrifying but awesome concept. It allows for some terrifying imagery and creative kills that are only possible through the power of dreams. The girl being dragged across the ceiling and Johnny Depp sinking into his bed and then blood coming out of the bed are just so unforgettable. Robert Englund as Freddy is an absolute revelation. Not only can he be creepy and menacing, but he can also be hilarious as well with his gags. Not much else can be said about this classic, so 10 Christmas sweaters out of 10.
Freddy's Revenge.
Freddy's Revenge is a weird follow-up, but you know what? I like it. So Freddy is trying to possess this kid as a portal to the real world. The kid falls asleep and Freddy takes over while he's dreaming, wreaking havoc, and there are some memorable sequences that stick out in this movie. The locker room death of the gym teacher where he's spanking him with the towel gets a kick out of me. But the one scene I think that is worth the admission is when Freddy literally comes out of this kid's body and comes alive in the real world. It is an all-time body horror sequence that I wasn't even expecting. Like Freddy uses this kid as a meat bag and just disposes him. The climax of Freddy terrorizing the party and then going back to the boiler room is all fun. It takes a while for Freddy's revenge to get going, but once it does, it's definitely one of the creepier nightmares. So this gets 7 sweaters out of 10.
A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3.
Dream Warriors! Dream Warriors is when the Nightmare franchise kicks it up a notch and gets to a whole new level. It's pretty awesome. And Nancy from the original comes back too, so this definitely feels like a follow-up more to the original than Part 2 did. So yeah, Freddy is haunting a teen mental institution and Nancy is there to help. I love this ensemble of characters, and you can feel the chemistry and affection the cast has for one another. These are some of my favorite kills in the franchise. Freddy playing that kid like a puppet using his tendons is just. Who came up with that? That's awesome. Freddy turning into a TV and saying this gem. And then he injects that girl with the syringes. This is probably the best balance of comedic Freddy and a Freddy who is still creepy and dangerous. And then, of course, the kids figure out they have abilities and dreams, and they become like the X-Men. And they are a bunch of superheroes fighting against the villain by the end, and it's so much fun. Dream Warriors is one of the best nightmares that goes bigger than before with a fun ensemble, crazy dreams, and kills, so this gets 9 Christmas sweaters out of 10.
A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. The Dream Master.
The Dream Master is actually a lot of fun, but I'm kind of mixed on it. On one hand, yeah, it's essentially the most commercial Nightmare on Elm Street with an even larger scale, but it also kind of spits in the face to lovers of Dream Warriors. However, I do like Alice as a new protagonist, and I'm happy she's the next final girl. But yeah, this has some of the best kills in the franchise that are both hilarious and horrifying. The waterbed kill, uh, Freddy on the beach is just like everything. And then when he sucks space with that girl with asthma, and then one of my favorites is when he turns that girl into a cockroach. That is a gnarly body horror scene. Like, wow. Also, the pizza. Freddy loves his soul food, man. Overall, Dream Master is one of the most fun nightmare movies with an even bigger scale and budget. But they killed the Dream Warriors, man. That sucks. So, but whatever. This gets 8 sweaters out of 10.
A Nightmare on Elm Street 5. The Dream Child.
So you know what? A lot of people think that the Dream Child is where the Nightmare series starts going downhill. I disagree because I like this movie a lot, actually. Alice is back and she's pregnant, and Freddy is using her baby's dreams to gain power. Okay, this film is definitely wacky, but it's kind of a blast. I like the further development of Alice. The kills in this are pretty insane. When Freddy turns into a motorcycle and fuses with the guy, and he's just that is crazy. And then he's force feeding this girl. And of course, there's the infamous comic book scene, which I absolutely loved. I found these kills to be some of the most memorable and wacky of the series, but I guess people, thought it was a little too much. Dream Child is a very wacky nightmare movie with some crazy kills and some crazy ass choices, but I had a blast watching it, so this gets 8 sweaters out of 10.
Freddy's dead. The final nightmare.
Ah yes, Freddy's dead. This is when the series started going downhill, and this is when they tried to kill Freddy for good, but they obviously didn't. Okay, yeah, this movie is kind of stupid, but I had fun with it. It's so cartoonish, and Freddy is essentially Bugs Bunny. The video game kill is absolutely hilarious. Freddy suddenly has a daughter, and there are these silly dream demons. Freddy looks cheap too. I don't know what happened, but I did like learning about Freddy's backstory and stuff like that. I don't have much to say about this movie. They went a little too hard on the comedy, and the final confrontation is so stupid. But I laughed, so this gets 6 sweaters out of 10. Wes Craven's New Nightmare is a very fun, intriguing, self-aware nightmare movie that takes place in the real world, where Heather Langenkamp, the actress of Nancy, is playing her real-life self. I love this meta approach. While the film flopped, this movie walked so the screen could fly. This movie comments on the franchise itself, horror movies in general, fandom, and celebrity. It's fun to see Robert Englund, Wes Craven, and the head of New Line Cinema play themselves. The talk show scene where Freddy comes out is hilarious. I love how the earthquake coincides with Freddy's dreams and how it interacts with the real world. Everyone thinks Heather and her son are crazy. The hospital death of the babysitter is great. Freddy here is actually pretty scary and mean, which is welcome because the last couple of movies he's kind of a cartoon character. The movie kind of fizzles once the final confrontation starts to happen, but overall, New Nightmare is a fun, self-aware slasher. And I'm happy Heather Langenkamp got to be in this series one last time, so this gets 8 sweaters out of 10. The 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street is a mediocre reboot that tries to bring Freddy into modern times but falls so flat. But it's just so boring, to be honest. Rooney Mara is Nancy, and she's a very good actress and other things, but she is not giving much here, and that same goes for the rest of the cast. Jackie Earl Haley as Freddy is definitely inspired casting. He would have been good, I feel like, with a better script and direction, but here he's just kind of dull. And yes, in this movie they make it clear that Freddy is a child predator, which is implied in the originals, but they double down on it in this movie, and then that kind of makes the movie a lot more serious than it needs to be, and these movies were never that. Overall, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake is watchable, but it's very boring, and they tried to be just a little too serious. And the best Nightmare movies are the ones that balance fun, creativity, and thrills. So this gets 5 sweaters out of 10.
Freddy versus Jason.
Freddy vs. Jason is a tremendously fun but flawed crossover of two horror legends. It is by no means a perfect crossover. The first hour of this movie has to lay a lot of groundwork. Yeah, it's a bunch of mediocre characters and you have to get them to fight and it's stupid. But once Freddy and Jason meet and they start fighting, it is quite possibly the greatest movie of all time. The last 30 minutes of this movie are just Freddy and Jason going at it, and it justifies the first hour mediocrity. These two fight in the dream world, and it's awesome. And then Freddy and Jason fight in the real world, and it's just this is when the movie becomes a masterpiece. After watching all these movies in succession, Friday movies and the Nightmare movies, this battle just felt so blissful, and I loved every second of it. And when the lake is on fire, it is just so beautiful. Overall, Freddy vs. Jason is amazing when it's good and kind of forgettable when it isn't. This is the last Robert Englund performance, which makes me happy that he got to fight against his rival. And yeah, this truly feels like a culmination of both franchises, and I had a blast watching this. So I give this 8 hockey masks and 8 sweaters out of 10. Here's my ranking of both Friday movies and Nightmare movies with Freddy vs. Jason included. Thank you so much and have a great spooky season. Sorry I took long, but hey, it's here. Happy Halloween.